Hey folks, Travis D. Samora from Texas here. Today I'm going to talk to you about what if and how to react. What's the what if? It's been in the news. FBI Director Chris Wray warned Tuesday that the Hamas rampage in Israel and things associated with that, there's an increased chance of terrorism within the United States. So if we see some activity like what hit Israel spaced across, we're a much bigger country, across the whole United States, how are we going to react? And, it can affect everything: transportation, food supply, fuel, and sense of safety if you're not in the attack. So we're going to talk about that, not war fighting, but more so on how to mentally be prepared. Thank you. All right, folks, Travis D. Some more. I'm back with you. And I'm going to go through this pretty quick about what if and how to react. And I'm talking about sleeper cells if they're activated. And, one of the things, sleeper cells, who's in charge, expected activities, and where. And that touch on the impact that have on transportation, food supply, fuel, and sense of safety. That sense of safety and building mental resilience is a big part of what I want to talk about. And I'm not going to read all this as I go down through here. FBI Director Christopher Wray warned Tuesday that Hamas rampage could inspire violence in the U.S. So be aware of that. This whole document is going to be attached as a Dropbox link, and you'll be able to click on these links out of that document. Lots of information about people from state-sponsored terrorist areas coming to the United States. If we have an attack, it's going to cause problems with regional transportation and fuel and food distribution for some period of time. They're having big demonstrations in Panama now about a mining issue, and a lot of people in Cherokee Province have no access to food or fuel, so they can't go to work. Michael Yon has got some spot-on stuff here. I'm just going to touch on this about the reality of some of this. Here's one. He got a guy named Scott Lobato talking about the sleeper cells should be in the United States. You need to be aware of it. Michael Yon said Scott's tracking the border is the main issue. The wounds are self-inflicted. It's kind of got a little humor in it too, but he talking about people wake up. There's just another guy in the United States saying, people wake up. Michael Yon is a great guy to follow on a lot of platforms, but he's on Twitter, posts everything. Here is Michael Yon's post again. His call sign, Big Honey 6. I'm not going to ask him about that. But anyhow, at Michael_Yon. And, he's got a lot of data here about, the way people are moving around, where they're moving from, and China's Belt Road, and it's actually about that in Panama. Belt Road and Panama is a book by Eddie Taparero, and a strategic perspective scenario between Americas and China. So, some good stuff. Take a look at Michael Yon. Let me get back here. So, what I'm talking about, I first started talking about RAGTAG, which is Reality Awareness Group, and Transformative Action Goals. And what you need to do now is get educated, informed, and prepared to deal with this new reality. That reality is we have a lot of geographically terrorist-associated people by the hundreds and thousands coming into the United States. We have 10,000 people a day coming across our southern border. Some of them are from Syria. And all our federal government's doing is when they come in, they give them a cell phone and a debit card and tell them to go to these certain cities and just stay there until you hear from us. Wonder what that's about. Social chaos and disorder. I call myself a community organizer, but with a twist. I'm not doing a political community organizing. I'm talking, I'm retired law enforcement. You see that at the end. And then I spent 2 years, 8 months in country in Afghanistan working with border police while I was embedded with U.S. Army. And I had a kind of a unique opportunity as we went out. I was able to talk through the interpreters with the people in the village, and then the elders would come to our base and have meetings, and and I talked with them there, got to understand what their concerns were and everything else, and how they were reacting to the Taliban threat in their community. So, got a little different view. I'm not going to be talking about how to do war fighting. I'm going to talk about the mental response and the community response. Okay? In 2010, I was working out of Fob Tillman, Paktika province. It's in here, all the details. But the one main point, one elder, had 600 men in his village, and we both knew every man could have an AK. And so we had a group of 25 Taliban was coming through, and I heard this several times, and actually tried to set up an interdiction one time, but didn't work out. And so, 25 Taliban coming in, and they'd walk up to these houses, say, hey, we're here, give us your money and give us your food. Or they want a certain amount of money and a certain amount of food. And it scared the villagers, and, but they didn't do anything about it. We all know that 600 men could have killed, taken out that threatening element, but they didn't do it. And what are some of the reasons? And I kind of understand this. At least be aware of it, so you can encourage people, look, we got to overcome that fear, or we're going to have to submit. And I will offer to you that if you try to submit to terrorists attacking us in the U.S., you're going to have a really bad day, because that submission doesn't work too well with those people. But in Afghanistan, these villagers, his guys had to work every day, gathering food, moving the goats to pasture, and they did not want to participate in 24/7 operations for perimeter security. And if his village, number two, if they took out and killed the 25 Taliban, the Haqqani group would send 250 to attack the village. So they knew there would be a bigger counterattack. And number three, that counterattack means the village would have to increase their political will and fighting will to deal with that increased threat. You saw what happened in Israel. If we have similar activity happening in numerous locations across the United States, where you got 1,000 or even 50 bad guys attacking the infrastructure and people, you're going to have the political will, your community will, or the war-fighting will to deal with that increased threat. Or you can submit. Submission is not a survival option with these people. Doesn't work out too good. Just letting you know. And, we can talk about the oppression of government. That's not my focus. I want to stay on, let's get our community organized. I joke about it, but I'm a community organizer. Get to know your neighbors and share ideas about resources. Somebody might be a nurse or a doctor, and they're doing things in the United States. Up in Minneapolis, a pro-Palestinian group did a roadblock a few days ago. Very coordinated, very well executed. And you got to understand that if you're in one of these things, you need to think. I know somebody has a 1-ton Dodge 4-wheel drive. If they got 10 demonstrators in front of them, they could put it 4-wheel drive right over the big mass of them. That'd be a mess. But if you're in a Honda Civic, you might get high-centered on one person and not be able to go. High-centered means your front drive wheels come off the pavement, don't get any traction, so you're stuck. So if you think, well, I'll just run over them, what if there's 40 of them in front of you? We used to press through crowds when I traveled through Jalalabad. There'd be 1,000 people on the street, and they're just barely parting, and they're pressed up against our windows as we went through. If you're in that kind of crowd and you're in a Honda Civic, you're not going to run over anybody. You might think you can, but the mechanics of it ain't going to happen. And you don't want to get stuck. If they're just beating on the windows and scaring you, you don't want to take an action, one, that you cannot explain to a grand jury, so stay legal. Look up your state's rules on use of force, and, think about that. If you got those 100 people in front of you, you try to run over them, you're not going to get far, and then they're probably going to have their retribution on you. So think about that. And think about the grand jury thing. Don't do anything illegal. Uh, you know, Michael Yon got this drone footage from this event, and I want you to look at it real quick. At the top of the picture, you'll see the that kind of arch red line. They formed a radius with their own vehicles and blocked all the traffic, and then the circles with a three. He's got several of them. There's ATVs and a motorcycle. The Raptors mobile rapid reaction force to respond to outside interference or people trying to escape. It said prevent enemies from escaping. So, that's the way they think. And you look at this, you may encounter this. This can be set up quickly, like in 30 seconds. If they've got their ATVs and their motorcycle guys, and then they just a line of cars and they just make a turn, they can set it up in 10 seconds. And then this was actually blocked on both ends, and this was like an elevated service road next to a freeway. Yeah, I mean, you look at the drone video, you can kind of see that's what it looks like. And then in black there in the black square with white letters, question, does your local Patriot Prepper group have anything like this level of organization? Assume that every one of them has an AK for the next time. In other words, if their intent is to kill, and you're caught in one of those, you got to be prepared. You're going to have to learn how to shoot, move, and communicate, how to react to contact, all that kind of stuff. If they're just banging on the windows and threatening, you'll be better off just sit there until local law enforcement responds and clears the area. Scare you, yeah, your car's going to be damaged, but you don't want to go to jail over their mistakes. So, and where do they get all this? A lot of it comes from the Marxist doctrine, Che Guevara's Manual on Urban Terrorism, who followed along with Saul Alinsky's 13 Rules for Radicals pretty close. He had very similar comments, and that's Saul Alinsky's 13 Rules for Radicals, and I got it here. And stuff like, make the enemy, number 4, live up to his own book of rules. And that's what I was talking about. If you're in the Honda Civic and they're just scaring you, don't try to run over and kill them. They're going to make you live up to your own book of rules, follow the law, and be under threat of having a grand jury indictment for murder. But don't let them get you to the point where you're the only one that goes to jail. Okay, pick my drift up. Read these 13 rules, get to understand number 13. I love that. That's what the mainstream media does when they're messing with a lot of our politicians or whoever. Or you have people going, we're going to have a community prayer, and the demonstrators show up and they mumble a response. They're not prepared to defend their faith. But the media's there like watching, and they got the camera. They're going to see what the grandmother says to the Antifa or the pro-Palestinian protester when they get in their face and they're spitting on them, and said, what's Jesus going to do about this now? And so pick the target, freeze it, personalize it, and they're also shouting, well, you're a fat, ugly American. Personalize it and polarize it. That's a technique they use. And once you read this and understand it, then you look at the national news and you look at all these articles about who said what about who. They have picked the target, they froze it, they personalize it, and polarize it. And it's pretty obvious to see what they're doing once you take a look at this. So, if you don't want to do any of this, I'm not going to pay attention to all that. Well, you could go sit in your safe space and hope they pass you by. And I don't forget to take along your tissue. Good luck with that, and let me know how it works out. Okay? In the meantime, I'm going to throw some scripture at you. There's my law enforcement. This is all going to be on the document attached. But Psalm 27, I used to use this as a pre-convoy prayer. The Lord is my light, my salvation. Whom should I fear? The Lord is the defense of my life. Whom should I dread? When evildoers come upon me to devour my flesh, my adversaries and my enemies, they stumbled and fell. If an army encamps against me, my heart will not fear. If war rises against me, in spite of this, I am confident. Amen? And there's my affiliate links. It'll all be on the document. Have a great day.